Alright guys, so in today's video we are going to talk about the summary of what we have discussed earlier, the Python's collection data type. So we have already talked about list, tuple, sets, dictionary. We are left with string. We are going to take it up in the next one, but I wanted to do a summary before we proceed, and also a few questions that you may come across from these topics. Okay, so we had talked about list. What is a list? A list is ordered mutable collection allowing duplicate values in it, and it is created using square brackets. It can hold multiple data types, right? So we had taken this example as well. I have most of the examples that I have pasted in the slide is from whatever we have discussed earlier, right? So you can do you can have a reference of from the actual code we have discussed. All right, moving on. So these are some of the methods, or let's say some operations that we can perform on list. So we know how to access, modify. If you want to append, use the append keyword. Insert is again insert keyword. To remove, you can pop it, or you can also use remove. And we have length, sort and reverse, extend to merge to list, count of the list, clear to clear it, and to create a iterable list using a string. We can also do that. And last is delete keyword, right? We had talked about tuples. What are tuples? Tuples are ordered immutable collections created using a parenthesis. And since tuple is immutable, so there are no append operation or remove operation or sort operation in it. If you want to perform such actions, you have to convert it to again a list and then do that and typecast it back to a tuple, right? If you are going to concatenate two tuples, it's going to create a new object for it. Where you want to use it, you can only use it where you have fixed data like coordinates or the weekdays, the days of, the name of the days, or some constant that you want to declare in your code. Since tuples are immutable, therefore they are slightly faster than list. Okay. How do you create a list? You create it using parenthesis. You can also have multiple data types in it, but the catch is you cannot edit it. Okay. Now to access, you just have to provide the reference, the index of it, whichever value you want to access. Count is same. Concatenation, if you want to concatenate, use the plus operation. To typecast it to a tuple, just give a tuple and open parenthesis and the data inside it. Statistical method that is applicable is max, min, sum, sorted. There are others also you can browse through. Okay. We talked about dictionary. It's a collection of mutable, unordered key value pairs, right? But the keys must be unique and immutable, right? Dictionary in itself is mutable, but the keys are immutable. Okay. Now use a curly bracket to create a dictionary, or you can also declare it with dict keyword and the values and keys you want to have in your dictionary. You have to pass it inside it. Now there are three things that we can iterate upon in a dictionary. You can iterate upon the keys, you can iterate upon the values, or you can use items to iterate. Okay. Now how do you access it? You are going to access it using your dictionary name and the key name. Now to print is also the same. So this is a safe way how you can print. Say if the key is not found, it would throw an error in your script. But if you don't want an error, just pass a default parameter or default argument that's saying that if this key of salary is not found, then just print not found. Now again, adding and updating. So it's the same. You just have to provide a key and a value, and that gets added to your dictionary. Like we discussed earlier, you can iterate over keys, values, and items. Okay. And set default is again a method where you can set a default value to all the keys. Like when you're declaring a dictionary and you don't have a value to it, you can just use a set default method to insert insert keys if not found, right? Okay. We had seen set also. Set are again unordered mutable objects, but they are all unique elements. They don't have any duplicates, right? And they also don't have any indexing. So how do you create The creation is again simple. Use a curly bracket, or again use the set keyword and typecast a list into a set. Now whenever you typecast a list into set, it's going to remove all the duplicate elements from it. Adding and removing is simple. You just have the basic keywords: add, remove, and discard. And pop is a method where it is going to pop a arbitrary element from your list. It can be any number that is popped out from your list. We have discussed about this, right? Discard. So if you are going to discard 5 from your list, say that your list had 1 2 3 and there was no 5, your discard won't throw any error. Now there are set operations: union, intersection, difference, symmetric difference. We had seen all of these. We had also seen this: is subset, is superset, is disjoint, and copy. These are other methods you can perform upon a set. Yeah. Moving on. So this is a table where we talked about list, tuples, dictionary, and set. I had listed out few features of these things and how they are different from each other, or all the collection data types, properties are listed here. Right? There can be many, but I have just highlighted the elementary ones. Okay. So list is mutable. It allows duplicate and is indexable. The syntax is in a square bracket. Memory usage is higher than tuple. Insertion deletion is allowed. Use cases where you have a dynamic order to be collected, right? Now tuples are immutable, allows duplicate, yes. Indexable, yes. Syntax is in a parenthesis. Memory usage lower and more efficient. Insertion and deletion is allowed. I mean, the use case of tuples where you have fixed ordered collection. Okay. Dictionary is mutable. It allows duplicate? No. Keys must be unique. The values can be duplicate. Indexable? Yes, only the keys. Syntax is again in a curly bracket. And memory usage is higher because it stores keys and values. And insertion deletion? Yes, use case where you have a key value mapping. Okay. Set is again mutable, allows duplicate? No. Indexable? No. Syntax is again in a curly bracket. Memory usage is lower. Lower as in lower with when compared to dictionary, but it is higher than tuple. Insertion and deletion is possible. Use cases where you want to remove duplicates. Now here is again a few use cases where you can use what type of data. Just go through it. Okay. Okay. So we have this interview questions, few questions that we had prepared. So I am going to take this up on PyCharm and we'll discuss on this. Okay. So I have listed all the questions here itself so that we can discuss like we did it in the earlier classes. So let's take the first one. What is the difference between a list and a tuple in Python? We had seen these. We just discussed it right now. Based on mutable and immutable, so you talk about mutable and immutable. Mutable and immutable. You can talk about how it is created, and what else we can talk about. The uses. How do you create an empty list and an empty dictionary? How do you create it? So you create it using a list is created using square bracket and dictionary is created using curly brackets. Can you modify a tuple after it's created? Why or why not? Can you modify a tuple? The answer is no. The answer is no. So once it is created, right? Once a tuple is created, you cannot modify it. All right? You cannot add, delete, or change any elements to it. Right? If you are going to do some operations on it, it is going to create a new instance. If modified, a new instance is created. Okay. All right. How do you add element to a list? Give an example. How do you add an element to a list? Let's take this one up. Okay. Let's comment everything else. Okay. How do you add an element to the list? Say you have a list. Say my underscore list is equals to, you open a square bracket, 1, 2, 3. You want to add 4 to it. Okay. How do you add? So you'll say my list, my, what is this? My list dot append. Okay. What do you want to append? I want to append 4. Okay. And I'll say print my list. Let's run this. What do you get? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 was appended to the list. Okay. How can you iterate through dictionary and print its key and values? So we have seen this, right? Okay. So let's take a dictionary. Let's say my dictionary is equals to, we'll open a curly bracket. I'll give 1 colon and a, or let's take it this way. Let's keep the keys as immutable. Okay, we'll keep it as a, and the value I'll give 1. We'll keep, and similar fashion we'll have b to c3. Now the next thing what I want to do is I'll iterate over it. So I'll say for key comma value in my dictionary dot items, I'll say print key values. And if you want to format it, again use the f string, use curly brackets here, use curly bracket to print the variables. So let's say key colon and comma, I'll then say value, I'll say value colon and put it in again curly brackets. Okay, so it's still throwing an error. Yes, why? Because I haven't closed it. Let's run this. So it's printing me key and values here. All right, simple. Moving on to the next one. How do you merge two dictionaries in Python 3.9 plus? Okay, so use the keyword. Use the keyword. You have to use a keyword which is pipe. Okay, the keyword is pipe. So let's say you have dictionary, right? I'm just going to copy the same thing twice. Okay, let's name it as 2. Let's name this as 1. So you have 1 and 2. Okay, now you want a merged dictionary. So you'll say merged dictionary is equals to my dic 1, use it to my dic 2. Now you'll print, I don't want to print my dic, I want to print merged dic. Okay, so since the keys were same, it merged both the values in it, right? Now let's change the keys here. Let's change it to D, E, and F. Now what are you expecting here? You'll have all the values in it, right? A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, clear. Moving on. What will be the output of the following? So let's take this here itself. X equals 1, 2, 3, y is x, y dot append 4. So in this case, what happens? If you are printing x, x will also have this value of 4 along with it. Okay, let's run this. Okay, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Now, if you don't want this 4 here, what are you going to do? So in that case, before you are copying, or when you are copying, let's say z equals to, we'll say x dot copy. Okay, so now you are going to print z. Okay, now y is also a copy. Y is also having the values of x. Z is also having the values of x. But while you are updating, let's say while you are updating y dot append 4, and I'm going to do the same thing with z also. Right, to do same thing with z dot append 4, or let's say 5. So this append won't make any changes to x because I'm using a copy reference here, right? While you are assigning the value to y, it will affect the original object also, the original list object, right? Let's run this. After I have done my operations here, this y dot append 4 got inserted into y and is also available in x, right? Because first print statement is for x. And one sec, let me comment this. Yeah. So the first one is 1, 2, 3, 4. This 4 is, this one is coming from the first print statement, print x. So if you see, we are appending 4 to y, but since it was assigned, like x value was assigned to y, so the original list is also changed. Whereas when we did a copy operation on z, and added a value, say 5 to my list, this 5 was not added to the list X. Instead, it was added to the list Z, right? Okay, moving on. Explain how list comprehension works. Give an example to filter even numbers from a list. Okay. So, what is list comprehension? So, list comprehension, compact way to create a list. So let's say we have a number list, numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you want to pull out only the even numbers from it, right? So we'll say even numbers, okay. And using list comprehension, what we are going to write? We are going to say we are going to have a value x, right? Which is for x in numbers, right? Then we'll say if x mod 2 is equals to 0 or is equals to 0. Okay, so what we are doing here is, what happened here? Oh, this is not supposed to be here. So I'm not printing any index, right? I'm just printing the list values, right? Okay, so x for x in, if x in numbers, so I'm pulling out each numbers from it. If it is divisible by 2, that means it is a even number, so I am adding it to my even numbers list. Now the next thing I want to do is print the even numbers. Let's print this. Let's run this. So what am I getting? I'm just getting 2 and 4. Okay, clear? Moving on. How do you convert a list of tuples into a dictionary? So it's pretty simple. So you have this list. You have this list. To convert it to a dictionary, you just have to say dictionary is equals to whatever is the value that you have. You just have to say dict and put the list here and just print dictionary. Since it was already in a key value, it was a list of tuples, right? So let's run this. What do you get? You get a dictionary object here, right? Now to double check this, you can also print the type of it. What is the type of it? So we'll say print, we'll say type of dictionary, right? Let's say, so you should get the class dictionary. All right, clear? Moving on. Okay, what is the difference between dictionary items and dictionary values? All right, items have a set of key and values, whereas values are just values. We had seen this earlier here when we were trying to iterate on a dictionary, right? So values are the values, and keys are, the items are the set of key and values, right? Clear? So I'm not going to write it again, but you can use the earlier reference. All right, moving on. How do you remove duplicates from a list while maintaining order? So you can have a function which can do this particular operations for you, or you can convert it to a set as well. But let's say we don't want to do a typecasting, we want to write a function which removes the duplicate from a list. Let's see how we can achieve that. Okay. So let's create a function. We'll say uh, remove duplicates, remove remove duplicates, and it takes list as an input. And we'll say let's take a unique list. Let's say new underscore list is equals to, we'll define an empty list here, and we'll say for items in list. It's not item in list. What do you want to do? If item not in new list, we'll append it to the list, right? So new list dot append the item, and we'll say return the new list. All right, but it will be not here, it should be here. Okay, we'll return the new list. Now to run this, what will we do? We'll say list 1 is equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and just call this. Let's run this. What do we get? So this would print the list as it is because it doesn't have any duplicates. Now the next thing I want to do is introduce duplicates. 4, 7, 7, 7, 6, 9, 2. Okay. Now I remove this 2 from here because I also want to check the orders, right? Let's print this now. So you see the order is still maintained, as in when it was encountered first, the first reference is kept, the later references are discarded. Okay. All right. Let's comment this one. Moving on. What will be the output of following code? A is 1, 2, 3, 4. A of 2. You are appending 5 and you are printing A. What should this give you? So what it will give you is it will add, since if you watch this closely, A is what? A tuple, because it is using a round bracket and it has a list inside it, 3 and 4. Now, ideally, in an ideal situation, a tuple will not allow you to add a particular element to it. And if it is being added, it's creating a new object, or it's creating a new object for that list, right? I'm not sorry. If it is getting added, it's creating a new object for the tuple, right? But here, in this case, since it has a list inside a tuple, it will allow you to add a value to it while maintaining the same object reference, right? Okay, let's tweak this and we'll try to understand what is the catch here. What it will do, it will again, if you run this, it will add a value 5 here. Okay, as simple as that. Let's run this. So it added a 5 here. Now, what I want to check is, I want to check before I append, I want to check what is the ID of A. ID of A. After append, I will print the same ID of A. Now, if you see, both the IDs are same because the tuple is still pointing to the same object. Since it had a list inside one of its element, it allowed you to add a particular value to it, okay, and maintaining the same object reference. Clear? Moving on. Can a dictionary key be a list? Why or why not? If you remember in our previous lectures what we had discussed, so when we said dictionary is, what is it? Dictionary is mutable or immutable? Let's go here. Okay, now if you see here, where is dictionary? Dictionary is here. Dictionary is mutable, right? But the catch, what I said is mutable, but I should add here, right? Keys are immutable. Okay, keys are immutable. Fine. So we cannot have the keys as a list variable or a list data type. Reason being, lists are mutable and we want immutable objects to be the key. So we only want immutable types like string, numbers, or tuples to be the keys in a list, to be a key in the dictionary. So the answer to it will be no. Keys can only be immutable type. It can be string, it can be number, or it can be tuples. Fine. Moving on. What is the difference between is and equals to when comparing list? All right. Let's take an example here. Let's create a list a equals 1 comma 2 and we'll close this, b equals 1 comma 2 and we'll say print a equals to b and we'll say print a is b. Okay, now the difference is equals to checks for value equality, whereas this is operator checks for identity. That is, we had seen this identity is nothing but the ID reference, ID comparison. Fine. So it will check, the first one will check if the values are same. The second one is check if the object reference is the same. Right. So let's run this, what it prints. So it printed me false. Right. Why? So let's do a debug here, right? We haven't seen debugging earlier. Let's do a debug. I just clicked on here, added a checkpoint, and my script halted here. Now I want to check the ID of A and B. I haven't added in my code, but I want to check it here. What I'm going to do is right click, new watch. We'll say ID of A. All right, hit enter. You want to add a new watch. We'll say ID of B. Hit enter. Right, it's throwing an error because ID is yet not initialized. Okay, now to move to the next step, you will say F8. Now if you see, both the IDs are different, the values are same, but the IDs are different. That's why the first one is printing true, the second one is printing false, right? So true and false. Clear? All right, moving on. Write a function to count the frequency of element in a list and return a dictionary. Let's take a dictionary first. No, hold on. What does it say? Write a function to count the frequency of element in a list and return a dictionary. Okay. So we want a list first. List 1 is equal. So we'll take list 1 is equals to any list, right? We'll take a list of string. We'll say A, B, C, D, E, F. But instead of these values, I'll say B multiple times. And last one is again A. So what it should give me towards the end is, it should give me a dictionary with the actual object and the number of time it occurred in this list. So what I am expecting, it should return me A as 2, B as 3 and C as 1. Okay. Next step, let's create a dictionary. So let's say we'll name it as frequency, and it's a dictionary object. So I'll say for item in list 1, I'll say frequency of item, frequency of item is equals to frequency dot get item of 0 plus 1. Okay. And I'll say, then I'll say print frequency. Now you understood this line, this line, this line. We are again iterating over the list, right? What I'm trying to do here is I'm getting the elements from the frequency. Okay. My frequency is what? It's an empty dictionary. So right now my dictionary is empty. From here, what I did, the first element that I pulled is A, right? So in my dictionary, I am adding a value A, and if the value A was found, right? If the value A was found, the corresponding key would get added here, right? So right now the frequency is empty. Suppose the first element was A, right? It came here. At that point of time, A didn't have any values in the dictionary. A was just an element which is supposed to get added to my dictionary, right? The dictionary is frequency. So right now my frequency is what? So my frequency, let's say frequency. Let's check here. So here I am trying to see if A is present or not. So the first iteration, it comes here, it checks for A. Did it find A in this frequency? It didn't find. So it will return saying not found. Okay. But to overcome that, if it is not found, we had seen an example, right? If it is not found, if the key value is not found, you return a default value. The default is 0. Okay. So 0 is returned to me. Now what I am doing is I am adding A and I am doing plus 1 on whatever is the value I'm getting here. Okay. So since it was not found, I returned 0 and plus 1. So I added a frequency of 1. Okay. Now in the next iteration, it will run, it will pick B and it will again write B and its value will be again 1. In the next iteration, it will pick C and the value will be again 1. Now in the next iteration, in the fourth one, when it is running, it will again encounter B, right? So it will come here and check get item B, right? So it will check B's value. So it will find 1 here. So it will return the value as 1 and again I'll increment it with 1. So it will become 2. Now in the third iteration, again it will become 3. In the fourth iteration, A will become 2. Let's comment the previous one and let's run this. See? So you're getting the same output. So A is 2, B is 3, C is 1. Alright, moving on to the next one. So this is the last one here. Explain how Python's dictionary work internally, hashing and collision resolution. Okay. So let's talk about hash table first. Okay. What are hash tables? Hash tables. What are hash tables? They are kind of a data structure where the index or address of each element is generated using a hash function. Okay. So it uses a hash function. What is the advantage of using a hash function? It makes the accessing much faster. All right. Because they have already generated an index that acts as a key to retrieve the associated values, right? So if in simpler terms, a hash table stores a key value pair, okay? But the key is created through a hashing function. It uses key value to store, and retrieval is fast. Now to understand this, okay, how this works, let's take a simple array and imagine that array have 5 slots, okay, or we call it a bucket, right? So let's label a slot, okay. Let's have an array 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 places we added a array. So next we'll introduce the hash functions here. Okay, the hash functions takes the keys and convert it into an index in the array, right? For example, let's say our key is apple. Okay, so the hash function might map it to a certain index wherever it wants. So let's say it mapped it to 2. So what it will become now, I wanted to add apple, so I gave apple here. So now I wanted to add apple, right? So I gave apple here to my hash function, and what it did, it assigned an index to it. So let's say the index was 2. Okay, so it got inserted into index 2. Now my array looks like this. Okay, hit enter. I'll say this is my first index, this is my second index, 1, this is my third. So I'm sorry, this is my third index, but index is 2. So in index 2, what does it have? Now my index 2 has a value of apple, right? So it has apple here. Say I also gave a value to it. Say my apple, because it was a key value, right? So dictionary will always be a key value, right? So I associated apple as 10 in stock. So I have 10 apples right now. So my index 2 is holding this value, right? Now again 3 is same and 4 is also same. Clear until here? So I added more values here, okay, and now my list looks like this. So it has only 3 is one index where there is nothing, right? So this is how the hash function will create a dictionary, right? Now comes a catch where there is a collision, right? So let's talk about collision. What is a collision? So the hash will add to the same index in an array. Like I gave two different keys, grape and kiwi. Now hash will point it to the same index in the array. Okay. Now this will happen because the hash function doesn't always guarantee a unique index for every key. Okay. Especially if hash table is small or the keys are similar. Right. So in this case, let's assume that both grape and kiwi is hash to index 2. Okay. Normally we would store one of them here, but we need a way to store both without losing the data, right? That's where we use this technique called chaining. Okay, so we use technique called chaining. What is it? Where we store multiple values in the same index. All right. So this is a bit detailed explanation. This might not be required from a QA perspective, but it is important to understand how these data type works. Okay. So what does chaining do? The chaining will allow you to store multiple key value pairs at the same index by linking them together. Okay. Typically, so it uses linked list. Okay. So linked list is another data structure that we have. We haven't talked about data structures much, but this is another data structure that we have. So instead of overwriting over one entry in a certain index, we simply chain the colliding entries together. So at index 2, we will store apples as the first key value pair, and then we link the second pair grapes, and then we link the third one as kiwi or whatever values we are getting, right? So I have a date which is stored at 0th index. I have banana in my first index. I have my second index where apple is stored, and then there is also grapes there, right? So it's all in my second index. My third index is still empty, and my fourth index is cherry, right? So this is how a dictionary internally works. Okay, it uses hashing and collision resolutions. and storing it using in a linked list fashion. So we have covered this topic of summary and few interview questions, or say some technical questions around it. Now, in the next one, I'm going to talk about strings. If you still have any further question, please drop a note or drop a comment here. I can answer it for you. Or if you also want, we have our Insta channel up. You can also reach out to me from my Insta handles. All right, I'll give a link in the video itself. All right. All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.